Anyone who really knows me knows that I have a heart for mentoring girls and women of all ages, but especially middle and high school girls. Today, I get to share with you two of my favorite women on the planet and members of my own girl gang, the founders of Girls Mentorship, Mary Foran and Jill Peterson. Girls Mentorship was born earlier this year with the purpose of facilitating growth for middle and high school girls, especially around the important areas of self-worth and self-confidence. I asked Mary and Jill to come on the podcast, not only to share the journey of how Girls Mentorship was born, but also to give us some leadership principles that every young girl really should know, and how we as the adult influences in their lives can help to inspire and model these qualities for the next generation of Powerhouse Women. Welcome back to the podcast. I have two of my OG girl gang, lifers. We're just never getting rid of each other. Joining me today, my dear friends, Mary and Jill. Hi friends. It's funny to be connecting on Zoom, but it's also okay because that's the best way to record a podcast. I am so thrilled to bring this conversation to our audience and get to share the story of what you're creating and how it came together. But also, we were just talking even before we hit record about how what you're creating is filling such a need right now. And any of you listening who have girls, either teenagers, middle schoolers in your life, they could be your own children. They could just be children that you love. Maybe you're an auntie or a mentor. You're going to want to listen to this episode and probably listen to it again. In fact, this might be a good episode to have the young girls in your life that you love listen to with you. So thanks so much for joining me.
I'm going to speak for the both of us. We're honored! We're so honored. We love your community. Obviously, we love you. And just to be sitting on this side of the screen is really exciting. So thank you, Linz.
Well, a little surreal, if I'm going to be honest.
Yeah.
And we'll share a little bit of that story of just what it took to get to the point where we're having this conversation. Because, and a question I get a lot are where do you meet the women that you're that you roll with? Where have you met the people that you're closest with? And you two truly are. We joke, Mary is basically our family. She has a bedroom at our house, but she also doesn't live here. And now I understand that Jill and I are splitting custody because Mary also kind of now spends a lot of her time at your house. So, to talk about friendship, I feel like our friendship goes so far beyond even just the traditional definition of that. And a lot of women who listen to this podcast or are part of our community are really looking for where are those relationships in their life? So, why don't we just take a little walk down memory lane and talk about how this even all came together?
Okay.
So I first met Jill. Jill and I met through a personal development program. And it's funny because I used to sit behind her in these workshops and just stare at her guns. And I think actually Elliot also stared at her guns. She's super strong. She has awesome arms. And I just was I like her. I just want to be her friend. Oh my gosh. Do you remember that? That was 10 years ago.
Lindsay, yes. And I remember looking at you and Elliot and being okay, they're my age. I feel like they would welcome me to maybe we could go to dinner because we were there all night. And I'm I can't do this alone. They look like nice people. So even though you were checking me out, I was checking you and Elliot out.
It was mutual. It was mutual. And little did we know that the friendship we developed, which really was more of just in passing, you were a manager and in leadership for Lululemon at the time. I happened to love wearing Lululemon. So we would have these brief interactions when I would come into the store, but I feel like we always had that, just that knowing that when I saw you or when I was around you, I was like, yeah, I want to be around women like her. And it took a while for it to develop into like the friendship where we hung out. But if we can like leave people with something, it's like, don't be afraid to be that creep who's like, hey, you seem cool. Like, can we be friends? Sometimes it works out. Sometimes I still get rejected, but
oh my gosh, I totally agree. And I feel like even though we weren't super close, I knew a lot about you because of how open that personal development course allowed us to be. So I got to see you like behind closed doors. Like you also had a corporate job, and I saw your dreams and goals behind that, and it was so inspiring. And then every time I saw you in the store, I was like, oh my gosh, Lindsay, you fill me in. How are you? It was so fun to know that more people have desires outside of their 9 to 5. And funny enough, look at you. You've landed yourself exactly where you manifested it from 10 years ago.
Legit, I'm pretty sure that course that we did, it was over like 3 months. So it was a while. We were part of this group and we would go weekly. It was this personal development thing. I'm pretty sure I was still selling carpet. I think I left my job while we were in that course. Like legit, that's how long ago this was. But then fast forward, and it's fun to get to share these little parts of the story, because what I want you all to hear is how people will come along on your journey and you don't even really know why. You don't even understand the role that they'll play now or in the future. And so it went from, we had this mutual love for each other, didn't really get to hang out. And then I was going down this path of writing my book. It was about to come out. And I will never forget the day I did this Facebook Live in this private little Facebook group I threw together to promote the book launch. It hadn't come out yet. And I remember, if any of you have ever, just shown up maybe really vulnerably, or you've shown up in a new way, and immediately everything in you is like, that was uncomfortable, take that down, that was terrible, oh my gosh, like I was rambling. And I remember just being in this season of knowing that, okay, just leave it. Just leave that video up. I did this Facebook Live and I was like, go to the gym. So that was like the next thing I was going to do. I showed up, I did this live, and I thought it was the worst thing I'd ever done. And then I go to the gym and I get this message maybe an hour later from Jill that said, oh my gosh, I'm in my, I'm in my staff meeting with my Lululemon, other managers. And we just all watched your video. I wanted to die because I was embarrassed that this video was terrible. And you asked if I would come and speak at a staff meeting. Like people might know me now as like public speaking, but I had never spoken in front of people, maybe one other group before then. And I said yes, naturally, because it made me want to puke. And it just set off this chain of events where I then obviously got to meet Mary at that staff meeting, and, we'll fill in the gaps from there. But it's such a reminder to me. I think of that story all the time. When we feel that call to like put something out there, and maybe you guys have like an example of this too. We're always going to be our own worst critic, but I just remember feeling like, just leave it up. Don't like be such a perfectionist and try to control everything. Just put your message out there and trust that it's going to reach who it's supposed to reach. And like, can you imagine if I would have deleted that video?
No, because we wouldn't be, maybe we would be connected in some way, shape, or form, but I just remember seeing it, and you and that message was exactly what I needed to hear that day. Yeah. So it might not have been for anybody else, but it was for me. And then look what happened. I was like, I need her, in true Lululemon fashion. We don't give you a lot of time. It was like, I need you tomorrow. What are you doing tomorrow?
Which was great, because then I didn't have a lot of time to overthink it.
Totally. I think that is something really powerful there, is that we are really critical in how we show up, and we have to be somebody for everybody. And that wasn't true. You, thank goodness, Lindsay, you didn't take it down, because I needed to hear it. I was spinning my wheels as a leader, thinking my team is not listening to me. I need someone else who can breathe inspiration and possibility and just she's probably going to say a lot of the things I say to them. But, you know, it's like, I'm mom. Here's the cool aunt coming in and boom, my team loved you. So I love that you share that story. I think it's really powerful, and even a gentle reminder for when Mary and I show up and do things that I'm like, God, I look like an idiot. I have to remember there's someone out there that needed to hear that.
It is. I think back to it all the time. And then because you invited me to speak, I got to meet who now is, I mean, we joke Mary is my actual adopted daughter. She's only a few years younger than me, but we had to come up with an explanation for the fact that she was just always hanging out with Elliot and I. We didn't want people to think it was a weird, like, sister wives situation. But, you know, here, because of that, you know, it led to this person coming into my life who's like family to me. And so now we can bring Mary into the story. You were always part of the story, but we just hadn't gotten there yet. Hi. And, you know, you were at the time, I guess I'll let you share, like, kind of where you were at in your life, in your business journey, because this is kind of going to set up what we want to talk about today, of the path that led us to you two going into business together. And then, of course, we have so many other juicy things.
That was 2017. What was it? February 15th. I remember it.
We remember the day.
It's hard to forget days that change your life, and knowing you two has honestly changed my life. So those are really monumentous times, and they are so fun to look back at. I'll never forget introducing myself to you, just saying, hey, I think we're going to be friends. We might as well start now. And like,
that's
like
pretty much how
that has really just turned into this beautiful friendship where I've gotten to see all this growth and experienced all this growth in myself. So where was I? I was in my first business, which was owning a CrossFit gym. And I'm not sure if any of you know anything about owning a gym, but you don't make millions. So I thought, where could I supplement my income that would be a win-win? Not just go work for some random company, but like build the community and be involved with a company that's showcasing exactly the type of leader I want to be. And that was Lululemon. So Jill hired me at Lululemon late 2016 while I was owning my own CrossFit gym. So I was in and out of selling fancy pants, and I was able to meet Linz. And that was just the start of this beautiful path we've been on to discover more about ourselves. So with CrossFit, I loved helping people. I found CrossFit at a point in my life where I just needed an hour of the day to remind myself that I was important, and CrossFit gave that to me. So my next plan in life was to be able to provide that for other people, because I knew if it could help me creating a space for other people who might be in the same boat would benefit as well. So gym owner 2017 to just last year, I sold my CrossFit gym in 2019, which hindsight's 2020 there, but we won't get into that. And simply because I sold didn't mean that my want or will to influence people went away. It actually grew a lot stronger. And it left me feeling like I was in limbo, because I didn't know necessarily then where to put my influence or put my impact to where it would matter. So fast forward to now, that's kind of where I've been. I still personal train. I really wanted to go open my own space, but that wasn't in the cards. And that was a really great thing. And I think that's important to notate too, is I wanted to hit the ground running. I had all of these ideas that I could do bigger, better, faster, stronger. And those ideas didn't come to fruition, which at the time, like, it was devastating to me. But now looking back, I'm so glad that those prayers were unanswered.
Yeah. And I think this is one of the things I wanted to highlight for people, because, and I feel like all three of us have gone through a phase where we feel like we're in the waiting. That feeling of, gosh, I have this big desire on my heart. I don't even really know what it is. And I see others around me seemingly having this like winning season. And maybe the season for you right now is a season of waiting. What do you want to share? And you can both speak to this if that like resonates, but what do you want to share? What have you learned from just allowing yourself to be in that season of waiting? that now you can see from a different perspective because you are in this really cool season that we're going to get to next?
I would say that it's really important not to beat yourself up for the dreams that aren't coming true for you, because there's probably a reason why. And in that season, it's so important just to continue to give and pay it forward, because that brings some solace to you. That makes you feel good even when you're not accomplishing what you want to accomplish. Being able to support other people in their accomplishments, I think, is equally as gratifying as accomplishing something yourself. So I would just say, don't beat yourself up for the things that aren't coming true for you, because there's something bigger on the horizon. There's always a reason why you're experiencing friction or resistance, and it's important not to ignore those signs. It's important just to go with that flow and really just, I'd say, listen, open yourself up to the universe and the signs that it's giving you, and really take heed to those signs.
Yeah.
For me, I knew that I had something more to give outside of just a corporation. I was like, I love what I was doing inside of the four walls at Lululemon, but I wanted to try it out with a different community, moms, girls. I had so many ideas. And I also was really scared to take the jump. I was secure. I was making great money. I had great benefits, and our life was good. Nothing was going wrong, or nothing was forcing me to step into this new role of being an entrepreneur. But I just had that little urge on my heart to try it out. And surrounding myself with people like Lindsay and Mary and honestly, the Powerhouse community, I learned that if I failed, so what? I could always go back to if I chose that. So I was really supported in taking this risk to say, all right, I'm going to go try this thing. And honestly, I thought I was going to like wake up one day and feel enlightened. Like, I have this business. And what I quickly learned was, oh my gosh, now what? I don't even know what I don't know. I don't know what to do, and where do I start? And the self-doubt and the limiting beliefs and the fear was so paralyzing. But I just remember I had to start. I had somebody once tell me, okay, Jill, look at the people in your life. Look at the community who, no matter what, will say yes to you. Go there first. And it was Lululemon. I'm like, they know me. So if I put on a workshop for moms, guess who's going to say yes to that? It's moms who work at Lululemon. So that's what I did. And I got feedback, and I got the confidence to keep putting myself out there and showing up, like Mary said, even when I wasn't feeling like, woo, I'm killing it in this business. I just knew showing up for other people would potentially open up other doors for me. And I did that for 2 years, you guys, 2 years. And and honestly, it was this past summer that finally made me wake up to, and I'm sure we'll get to this, but I realized how badly I missed working with people. Like having another brain to operate these ideas with. And that was how really Mary and I started this business together. So that's my whole like journey to feeling uneasy, and then continuing to keep going because people were loving me through it. And here we are today.
Yeah. And thank you so much. I'm so grateful that you both share my heart for sharing really authentically all these steps in between what people could easily mistake on social media as being like an overnight success. Or, I mean, there's so many other little stories. Like, I knew I wanted to like coach female entrepreneurs. And I remember like Jill and this other little group of friends of mine let me like practice on them. I did like my first little mastermind, and I think I had you guys pay me via Venmo or something, like totally shady under the table. But it was like we all have that first thing that we offer or that first thing that we try. And if that's where you are, just know that like we all have 1,000 stories like that too. You just got to keep going and getting the feedback and reimagining. So then, Jill, you had created this beautiful business. You had started working with both moms and also high school female athletes. And then share the story, because it's not that long ago that it was like this light bulb, I think for you too, but then even everyone around you, we were like, oh yeah, that totally makes sense. Share how this idea for girls mentorship came together.
Oh, I love this story. It was over quarantine where life paused. So my athletes that I was working with, they didn't have sports anymore, and they were all online. And everybody, including parents, were like, what do we do to engage these kids? And so I had a lot of mom friends reach out to me and ask if I was creating anything. And at that time, I was homeschooling a kindergartner and a preschooler. I didn't have the space to think about that yet. However, when school finally ended for my boys, I had this other moment where I was like, okay, if not me, then who? I had more requests, and I'm like, I can lead a call on Zoom. I want a space not just for my athletes to come to, but for all girls, because everyone's going through this, and we can unite as a girl gang together once a week for 4 weeks. And I wanted to create a space to just let girls unload, and also for me to breathe inspiration back into them, because life quickly stopped.
Mm-hmm.
So Camp Social was born. That was a fun 4-week camp, all virtually. And the intention behind this camp was really just to have girls feel normal again, have a sense of fun and meet new friends, but also invite mentors on these calls to show girls what it's like to truly have female friendships. So Mary was the first person that I thought of. Like, she relates well to kids. She's funny. And second call, so I only had 4 calls of this camp. Second call, she comes in and blows everyone, including myself, out of the water. I'm talking girls were messaging me, asking for Mary's social media handle. That's when you know you've made it. When they want your handle. I was getting emails from parents like, what? Who's this Mary? And my daughter was talking about her, and she left me feeling beyond energized. And her and I were like, we looked at each other, we're like, whoa, that felt really good. And Mary was like, you only have 2 more calls left. Do you mind if I just join you? I'm like, yeah, screw this whole I'm going to bring other mentors on. It's you.
Important note, ask for what you want.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And also listen to how that person makes, like, Mary woke something up in me that I didn't know I needed, because I've been operating as a solo entrepreneur for 2 years, but I desperately knew I loved working with people, and I didn't know that connection, that energy that Mary brought to me I was like, oh my gosh, I need a business partner. It created a whole new world of possibility. So after Camp Social wrapped up, her and I looked at each other and we're like, we're not done. There's so much more to do, and let's play and create. And we met, and then we looked at each other and we're like, is this a thing? Like, should we do this?
Are we doing
Are we dating?
The answer is yes.
I was courting her for 4 weeks, and then, I finally...
Did you give her the final rose? You gave her the final rose. Yep.
I think that the cherry on top was trying to discover like a new name for this, because Jill was ready to sunset Harmonia, which, I mean, it was totally her decision. I never wanted to come into her business, quote unquote, and try to become a business partner. So she came to me and said, I'm ready to sunset Harmonia. Like, let's bring this thing for all girls to life, because we have influence to give. We have impact to have. And the name, we were like, well, what should we call it? And I mean, we sang a lot of Beyonce songs and like tried to look at nail polish colors, things that were good for girls.
Normal things.
We literally said, well, what are we doing? Well, we've got girls and we're mentoring them. It's girls mentorship. And when we looked up the domain name and it was available, and then we looked up the Instagram handle and it too was available, a light bulb went off that this was really something that we should probably do. So all the other important steps came in after that.
And I just want to quickly highlight that I didn't even know what was possible because I was really serving female athletes, I'd say within the last year consistently. And then being able to say, okay, I'm going to open myself up to serve all girls, quickly opened up my eyes to say, like, there are girls who actually do want to be athletes, but they're so they're so scared, or they're so stuck in whatever it is, that belief that they're not good enough to make the basketball team. There are athletes in girls that I didn't even, I be just allowing myself to be a part and open myself up to a wider demographic helped me say, oh my gosh, I can't just now do this niche demographic. I'm ready to expand myself because I want to be able to serve all girls so that all girls really can live out their dreams and goals.
And I mean, you both know how obsessed I am with what you've created and the heart that we all share for that age group. I've mentored girls for the last 10 years, like in all different forms, through nonprofits, through my church. And it always is this sobering realization that where a lot of the limiting beliefs we talk about within our community to adult women, they start that young. And what a beautiful opportunity to empower girls at younger and younger ages, so that once they get to us, once they get to their first Powerhouse Women event, it's like, oh yeah, no, I know that I can go after my big ideas. Now show me how. It transforms the conversation that we get to have. And for years we've had requests for something exactly like what you're creating. And it was just long overdue. So I'm so excited. You have so many different offerings for girls that I'm sure are going to continue to evolve. But one of the things that I really challenged you to bring to our podcast audience, because I think this is an overarching theme, that whether you're listening and you have girls in your life that you mentor, or they're your own children, or just children that you have an influence over, is this idea of how we as Powerhouse Women can really inspire leadership. So you have prepared a couple of different leadership principles that really, if we look at, gosh, what do we wish we had at middle and high school ages? If we would have been equipped with these leadership qualities, like that would have really set us up for success. So I'm going to kind of turn it to you. I'm really excited to hear your perspective on this, just from the work that you've done thus far with these girls, because I've gotten a front row seat to watch the impact, and it's just been incredible.
Oh, thank you. It feels incredible. I never truly knew what it meant to like get a download or like drop into my purpose until these last couple of months. And this has just felt so on purpose for, I know, the both of us. So it feels that much better when other people can see that in us as well. So yes, we wanted to talk about the importance of leadership, because we hear this so much on our calls where girls are not confident with themselves. They are comparing. Maybe they're a leader on social media where they're projecting this message that isn't actually in alignment with how they feel on the inside. And they're not a leader in areas of their life that really, really matter, meaning they're showing up in school. They're respectful to adults in their life, whether that's a coach, a teacher, a parent. They're having a hard time communicating how they really feel. So we we did come to the table with 3 principles of leadership that we feel like every girl should know and or every parent should model for their girls. And obviously we're called Girls Mentorship, but these are not bad ideas to model for your boys either if you have those. We're not including those. But our first one, our first point is your intention. You have to be intentional with the way that you show up in life. And we break that conversation down to really honing in on your values. You can't be intentional if you don't know what's important to you. So we really challenge these girls to go home and figure out what they value. Is that open communication? Is that the way in which you show love? So much can stem from the things that are important to you, and you can really paint a picture when you hone in on what exactly those things are. You can stand so much more in your power when you understand what's important to you.
And we like to set it up with a mindset. So the mindset around intention is I acknowledge the greatness inside of me and believe in the value I can contribute to the world. So when you know who you are and what you stand for, that's when you get to step into your potential. That's when you know your greatness. And that's when other people can also see that in you. And whether they're like, yeah, we want to be friends with her, or you leave them better than how you left them. Wait, you leave them better.
Leave them better than you found them.
Than you found them. Yeah. So it's also inspiring other girls, because as women, we know when we're not meant to be in a room, but we show up anyway. And we watch these women who we are aspiring to be, and they leave us better, or they give us permission to be vulnerable or to step outside of our comfort zone. We want girls to do the exact same. And when you get to be that, it's when you really are stepping into who you are. So that's number 1.
Oh, I love that. I'm like, yep. Okay. Wait, these are for girls, but I am also getting a lot for myself from this.
Well, Haley, to your point, I mean, Jill and I looked at each other a couple months ago when we first started this and said, gosh, how much further along would we be in our 30s? I'm 32, Jill's 34. How much further along would we be had we adopted these 16, 17, 18 years old? And that was really the light bulb moment for us to give ourselves permission to turn around and teach these, because obviously you've probably seen Jill and I, if you've been to a Powerhouse Women event, you've seen Jill and I in the background in some way, shape, or form. We've really gotten a first row seat to see women struggle with these concepts from the age of 25 to the age of 70. So it just made sense to move the needle down and focus on this younger demographic.
Yeah, I love that.
There's one more thing that I wanted to add, because I feel like as women, especially if there's a lot of business women listening to this podcast or entrepreneurs, women in business, we know probably what our mission statement is or our core values of our company. But do your kids know what they are for your family? So that's a really great starting point to start at, is have a conversation at the dinner table around what does the family value and how is everybody showing up in those values that you guys stand for. So do you have core values? Do you have a mission statement? Every time I drop Brock off at school, I always say, remember who you are and what you stand for, because he knows what he stands for, because we talk about it. And I don't care, even if he's not listening, he's like, mom, whatever. I'm like, remember who you are and what you stand for. But that could also be a really cool takeaway to just say, all right, I'm going to try that tonight when I go home and we're sitting around having dinner, or maybe this weekend, I'm going to bring everybody to the dinner table and talk about it.
I love that. Okay. So number 1 is intention.
Intention.
Okay. Hit us with number 2.
Number 2 is influence. Your influence, the way that you show up. So we can go back to intention, because that brings your values. So your influence is then your integrity with those values. And not just with those values, that goes with the people you surround yourself with, but most importantly with yourself. Having integrity with yourself allows you to be the most influential person that you can possibly be.
And our mindset, the mindset within this is making people feel something. So when you are in integrity with yourself and your values, you get to shine. We always say girls are almost like a light switch. Are you on full wattage? Are you really dim? Like, where are you at? But when you are at your full wattage, that's where you get to go through a drive-through and you get to make somebody who's giving you your food, you get to make their day. You get to make them feel something. And that's really important to teach these girls is you have the opportunity to influence people, whether it can be through a smile or a really tough breakup that you're there with your best friend and you're getting her through that hard time. It's making them feel special or important. And it's because you are so grounded in who you are.
And you both do that so well. I'm like, yep, you model that in everything that you do. And I mean, what a powerful lesson to learn at an earlier age, just the influence we can have over others.
Yeah.
That's
and
cool.
When you do that too, it builds your self-confidence.
Yeah.
When girls are like, how do we be more confident? It's like, have integrity with yourself. Do you keep your promises?
You have to keep the promises you make to yourself. That in turn that builds the trust in yourself.
Yeah.
There's where the self-confidence comes from.
I'm like, hand tap for that. Okay, what else we got?
Number 3 is ignite. So we had to stick with the I theme,
I see what you did there and I like it.
So alliteration. We started with intention. We go to influence. We go to ignite. Ignite is part of the community aspect, which obviously is the pillar number 1 of Powerhouse Women, right? We're not meant to do this alone. So with your intentions and values, with your influence, you can go ignite that in other people. So how is the way that you show up influential to not just you, not just the one person that you had a conversation with, but a whole community of people?
The mindset behind this is individually we are powerful, but together we are a movement. And we always say, like, I think about athletes in this moment, it's teamwork trumps talent. So you can have amazing, talented athletes, but if they're not unified, they're not going to win games. They're not going to win championships. And same goes, for women. That's why we're band together here in Powerhouse. It's because we know that we can't do this alone. And we know when we do it together, everything else catches fire. And that's a movement. That's the movement that we as women want to be a part of. But how do we teach our girls that it's equally as important at their age to do the same?
Yeah.
Oh, totally. Because I don't know if either one of you remember being a teenager in high school. Girls, I had the hardest time being friends with girls because of all the preconceived notions. Girls are hard to be friends with. They're backstabbing, they're catty, they're there. And it's like, why? Why does that have to be the narrative? Why can't it be a different way? Why can't we support those girls in the friendships that are just blossoming for them and teach them that they can be solid friendships, not friendships that you don't feel secure in, or friendships where you have to not tell the entire truth because you're afraid somebody's going to go spill the beans to 100 other people in class. Like, we want to make sure girls know that these friendships are attainable at that age, that they don't have to wait for them.
Yeah. And I think this ties it all back together with what you started by saying, that we as the adults in these girls' lives really get the chance to model that first. Like, how important is that piece, would you say?
100% important. Like, it is
15 out of 10.
It is at the utmost priority.
Yeah.
And that's where one of the things that we love to teach is that self-awareness piece. And parents also need to develop that skill, because they don't even know that they're doing things. They don't even know that they're saying things that are, sticking to their daughter, and then their daughter goes to school and says it because mom just said it. So it's really being mindful and catching yourself and being careful with your language and how you talk about other people, because they are really little people like us. And it is crazy how when we sit down with them, we're like, oh my gosh, we can totally see that now, because your mom, has shown this type of behavior, and not making any parent right or wrong by any means. We're all in this together, but they are sponges and they are watching. And even if it's not a teachable moment, they're always learning from you.
I literally was listening to another podcast today, and he was talking about in the parenting context, how kids have mirror neurons, which is like the sciencey way of saying they like their cells of their body literally are built to mirror you, that it's not what we say, it's what we do. And whether we're the parent or like, I just have like a mentorship role over some girls in my life, and remembering that, man, that's like a great way to keep myself in integrity, right? Like just remembering that we are that example.
Yeah. Well, and you think of babies, when babies first are understanding language, they're modeling our facial expression. So when babies start to explore their tongue, what do you think adults are doing? Sticking their tongue out and seeing if they're modeling it back. And it starts at such a young age, literally out of utero. It's boom, there we go. So that's a great point, Lynn.
Well, and it's a fun position for us to be in, because these girls feel comfortable enough with us to be able to divulge some things that they probably wouldn't to their parents. So then we're able to take that back to the parent and say, listen, like maybe approach it this way. Here's a different way to ask that question that doesn't feel like you're attacking her to where she shuts down. So we really get to turn on light bulbs on two different fronts, with the girls and with their parents. And we've gotten such great feedback through doing that and having the open communication with both parties, that just makes Jill and I feel literally like we're making a difference. And if you've ever had your own business, you're listening now, sometimes it doesn't feel like you're making a difference.
Anyone?
You're so deep in it.
Anyone?
Like, God, I did nothing but wrong things today. But when we get that text that's like, oh my God, teaching my daughter about love languages was the best thing you ever could have done, because I had no idea that she preferred to communicate this way. And she just did something for me that was in my love language that has now made my day. Those text messages are over the moon exciting for the both of us, because it's like we're actually utilizing what we've spent the last 10 years learning for ourselves. We're utilizing that to make an impact for other people. And I think that's so stinking cool.
Yeah. And as we kind of like tie this all together with a beautiful little bow, it's the biggest thing that I've learned from being a mentor role in other girls' lives. And the group that I mentor right now are juniors and freshmen. It's a reminder for me, if I have my own children, the power of having other role models in their lives. Like the girls that I mentor have amazing families, parents who are so loving, and yet there's things that they just don't feel like they can open up to about mom, to their mom at this point. Or, it was it literally, in this weird way, I don't even have kids yet, but it showed me that like, oh, even the most perfect parent, it's so valuable to have people like the both of you, or if you have access to a community where there's other adult role models that can pour into them. It really does take a village. Like I understand that whole terminology on a whole new level. And I think it's just a reminder that, yeah, we're not meant to do business alone, but I don't think we're meant to do parenting alone either. So I'm so grateful that you two have created what you're creating. Share where people can find you, where they can connect with the resources that you have available, and where they can just like, Insta stalk you.
Well, we created our first, I want to hone in on this a bit, our first freebie for your community based on what we just talked about with the leadership qualities.
We're honored.
We're excited about that. It's a fun little interactive worksheet that we hope you pull out and use with your daughter to talk about these things and to talk about her potential leadership skills. But we're mostly on the gram right now. We're building this platform out. We're building this plane as we're on the way down. So we are killing the gram game, if we're going to toot our own horn a little bit, toot, at Girls Mentorship. It's not spelled any type of funky way. There's no Y in there. It's Girls Mentorship. And then our website is under construction, which we're really excited to get that up and running. And that's at girlsmentorship.com.
Yay. Well, stay tuned for all of that. So much more to come from these two. And I cannot let you go without asking the question that I've just loved asking women in my life this year, because it has been just a year of a lot of ups and downs. And I think for me, what I've really needed to remember is to stop and acknowledge the places where I've been great or where I've had, like we like to say, a powerhouse moment. So for each of you, you can go individually. What's something recently or not so recently that when you think about, man, I was a total powerhouse in that moment? It could be big or small. What's the first thing that comes to your mind?
First thing that comes to mind is creating a new business during a pandemic, teaching my kids online school. So running a business, doing school online, and now they're in school, hopefully for a while, but who knows? Husband travels, and I can still prioritize me time in all of that. So I'm most proud, and like sometimes I tell Mary, I'm like, damn, I killed it today as a mom. And not just mom, but person. Like Jill showed up today. And there are moments where I don't feel like that, but moments like that prove to me that I can do a lot more sometimes than I give myself credit for.
Oh, I love that. Mary, what about you?
I think I'm most proud, my powerhouse moment, of the fact that I didn't sit down on myself. As hard as it is, because I'm not perfect. I compare myself just as much as we all do. And it's hard being around the go-getters and the people who are accomplishing things and still want to show up, right? And I'm just proud of myself that I put my own ish aside and still found it important enough to show up for my community and just have them pour belief into me that something was there for me, and that I didn't stop seeking that out, because it's been pretty cool to find it.
And it's been even cooler to have a front row seat to all of that. I love you both. Like the impact you've had on my life and on what people see on the surface as powerhouse women is immeasurable. I would not be who I am without you both. And truly, it is like the greatest honor to watch this idea of yours take life so quickly. And I know the impact is going to be huge.
Oh, we're just going to go ahead and retweet that.
We're crying over here.
I know, I'm like, before we get all misty, we'll just end it there. But truly, just so proud.
Seriously, thanks for having us on. It's an honor, as always.